Today we'll read a news article together so you can improve all areas of your English. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started.
Our headline: Americans are rallying against data centers. Surprisingly few are actually getting built. So first, let's talk about to rally against. The verb is rally. It's conjugated in the present continuous. So we have our verb to be conjugated with the subject, Americans, they are rallying to show is taking place now. You need the preposition against before you include the object, which in this case is data centers. If you rally against something, it means you come together as a group to oppose something. So you could replace these two words with protesting. Now, you don't protest against something, you just protest data centers. So if you do use protest, that's why I said you would replace these two words, protesting. Now, interestingly, you can rally for something. If I change the preposition from rally against to rally for, what do you think that means? Remember, rally against, you come together as a group to oppose something. Rally for, you come together as a group to support something. So you might say Americans are rallying for quieter neighborhoods. Maybe that's one of the reasons they don't want data centers. Or rallying for environmental protection. Maybe that's another reason. Let's keep reading. Surprisingly few are actually getting built. They're using actually here to mean in reality because there's a contrast, there's a contradiction. They're protesting, but construction isn't taking place. So why are they protesting? That's why they're using actually to show that contradiction. Now here, surprisingly few. Many of my students, even my advanced students, confuse few and a few. They're different and they cannot be interchanged. So you can't say surprisingly a few are actually getting built because it changes the meaning. The best way to remember the difference is to use this example. I have few friends. I have a few friends. If you say, I have few friends, it sounds sad. It sounds like you lack friends. So focuses on lack and it sounds sad. So when you say this, say it with, I have few friends. But then this one, I have a few friends. I don't know. To me, having 3-4 friends, that sounds nice. Me and 3-4 friends out to dinner, that sounds like a great way to spend an evening. So it sounds either neutral, positive. It could sound negative depending on the context, but comparing them side by side, few friends focuses on lack, and a few friends just focuses on a small quantity of. Sometimes a small quantity of can be negative. Other times it can be neutral or positive. So this is the best example to remember the difference. Don't worry about taking notes. I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's keep reading. People really don't like AI data centers. Politicians are running against them. When you're a politician, the verb you use to mean to participate in a campaign is run. You run for president. You run for city councilor. You run for mayor. So if you run against them, meaning data centers, it means part of your platform of why I should elect you is because you oppose data centers. So when I review the candidates and what their beliefs are, what their policies are, I know you oppose them because you're running against data centers. So the verb run is only being used in this case because that verb is used in a political sense. Politicians are running against them. A recent Gallup poll, Gallup is a research organization, a very common one in North America that publishes studies. A recent Gallup poll showed 71% of Americans oppose them being data centers. So if you ask an American, do you want a data center built in your community? 71% of people will say no. Several states have proposed or passed laws to ban them. Ban means to officially and formally restrict them. So to say no, data centers are not legally allowed in this area.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson.
But this notion is a more formal way of saying idea or belief. But this belief that AI data centers are quickly popping up everywhere. If something pops up, it means it suddenly appears. So as I'm recording this, maybe my husband pops up and he suddenly appears, and unexpectedly as well. And as you're watching this, most likely an ad is going to pop up. I know it's frustrating, but it truly supports the channel and allows me to keep posting free content for you. So I hope you can accept that, that ads will pop up. Data centers are quickly popping up everywhere, appearing everywhere unexpectedly, is belied by the fact that their construction faces massive hurdles. A hurdle is an obstacle. It's something that prevents you from making progress or moving forward. It's very commonly used in the construction industry. Now here, let's go back to is belied by. This is a more formal term. I don't think you will use it in your speech, but you may come across it when you're reading more formal writing or in the news like we have here. So first, notice the pronunciation, belied, belied. This is unstressed, so that's why I'm pronouncing it more like a b, and not b. That would be overstressing it, the sound, because this is the stressed sound. Now this is just like she lied to me. So lied, belied, belied. And notice the grammar, to be belied by. Now, you have to grammatically also include the fact that when you're connecting it to a clause. And the clause is a subject, verb, object. Think of it like a complete sentence. The meaning of this is contradicted by or proven false by. So this notion, this belief, Americans have this belief that data centers are popping up, appearing everywhere. In the next year, my entire community is going to be just data centers. So that's my belief, my notion. But it's proven false by the fact that construction faces massive hurdles. So construction isn't easy, regardless of whether anyone wants them in their backyard or not. This part they're including because people are protesting them, saying, I don't want it in my backyard. Now, my backyard wouldn't actually be my house and my yard. They're not going to put a massive data center on my property. We use this to represent our community. In my backyard means my community as a whole. So again, to be belied by, to be contradicted by, or proven false by. Again, not the most commonly used. Contradicted is very commonly used, or simply saying that's false, that's incorrect, because would be very commonly used as well. Let's keep reading. Despite $750 billion, the money sign in spoken English is dollars. It has the plural. And notice that you say it after you say the denomination, which in this case is billion, because you could have billion, million, trillion, thousand, but the plural is on dollars. Despite $750 billion in AI infrastructure investments this year alone, so in this case, alone means only taking into account this year, 2026, this year alone, according to JP Morgan. JP Morgan is a research consultant company. Data centers are struggling to get shovels in the ground. To get shovels in the ground. This is used figuratively, which means there's a different meaning to it. Just like backyard is not actually on my property. They can't fit a data center. So it represents community. Get shovels in the ground and struggling. They're not actually struggling to take a shovel and put it in the ground. They're struggling to start construction. Because how does any construction start? With a shovel. And that's usually the photo op to show that construction has officially started. There is a photo of some politician with a shovel in the ground. So to begin construction, officially start construction. About 60% of data center capacity planned for completion in 2027 hasn't even begun construction. This is more information that supports the fact that data centers are not actually popping up everywhere. Remember, actually, which I explained at the very beginning, is because it emphasizes that contradiction. People are protesting, but nothing's actually happening yet, at least. Because of these hurdles, the construction hurdles. So 60% of projects haven't started. Another 7% of projects, the construction projects, the AI data center projects, another 7% of projects that have gotten underway have since been delayed. To get underway simply means to officially start. So another 7% of projects that have started, that have officially started, they had the photo op with the politician with the shovel in the ground, but have since been delayed. So have since been delayed because the timeline is they planned it, they got approval, they officially started, they did some construction, and then construction stopped because of a delay. A delay, just like you know with your flight or train, a delay is something that officially stops you from going any further. Have since been delayed because it's to be delayed in the passive voice. Because we're not talking about the object doing the action, we're talking about the projects receiving the action. So you could say the weather delayed my flight. That's active, but it's more common to say my flight was delayed by the weather. But we more want to focus on the fact that our flight is delayed, not necessarily the weather. Although there is a time and place where you do want to use the active voice. But that's why it's been delayed. Let's keep reading. The United States had 5,427 data centers at the end of last year, according to Stanford University's AI Index report. That number is set to nearly double. So here, to be set to, set means planned to. You have a plan or you have a goal. So is set to, is planned to nearly double. AI companies have announced plans for 3,969 new US data centers, according to Aterio, a data center research company. Of those, just 802 are currently under construction. So notice to be under construction, our verb to be, because we have those data centers, it's plural. They are under construction. So the expression is to be under construction, which means construction is currently taking place. So if you're at a friend's house and you say, oh, can I use your bathroom? They might say, sorry, it's under construction. But that would be more common probably in a mall or an office or a more public place. But you could absolutely say our kitchen is under construction, our bathroom is under construction, our entire house is under construction. You could say that. Here's something I would say very naturally. I missed my flight because the bridge is under construction. So the airport is here, and in order to get to the airport, you have to go over a bridge. But construction is taking place on that bridge. And traffic was backed up like crazy. So if traffic is backed up, it means there's a row of cars that goes back a very long way. So I need to get over that bridge to get to the airport, but there's miles and miles of cars backed up like crazy. So that's something that you could say using under construction. There's reason to believe many of those nearly 4,000 planned data centers were never real to begin with. So nearly 4,000, because remember we had 3,969. It's way easier to say 4,000, but nearly because it's not quite 4,000. It was less than. So that's why they're using nearly. You could also use almost or simply say approximately. If you use approximately, it could be a little bit more or a little bit less, but nearly almost, it has to be less. Many of those nearly 4,000 planned data centers were never real to begin with. Developers typically submit many simultaneous applications. So notice you submit an application, which means you give it to the company or the organization required to approve it, maybe a government department in this case. Developers typically submit many simultaneous applications across multiple regions. So you have these regions. So I put my application here, 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 here. There's an idiom for this. Do you know what it is? You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You don't want to apply to only one region because if they reject your application, there's no backup plan. So even if you want this region, you still submit applications to 5, 10, 20 other regions as a backup, as an alternative, because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Developers typically submit many simultaneous applications. So simultaneous means at the same time. They don't wait for the status of this application. They just submit them all at once, and whoever gets back to them first, maybe that's the region that they use. across multiple regions only to pick the most viable one. Oh, okay, well, only to pick the most viable one. So if 3 regions approve the application, they review them and determine which one is the best for that specific purpose, the purpose of an AI data center. That would be the most viable one. The most, because this is the superlative, the most viable one, noted Goldman Sachs, another research consulting organization. Let's keep reading. That's why of the 565 gigawatts of computing power AI companies are currently planning, more than 10 times today's power. So notice this is an additional note. You can put it in parentheses, which represents that, parentheses, or you can put all of this information in commas. So you would have a comma here and you would have a comma here, which they already do, which means that this is additional information that can be removed grammatically and it doesn't affect the grammar of the sentence. Experts expect just 180 gigawatts to actually get built over the next decade. How long is a decade? 10 years. Over the next 10 years. So 10 years. So again, they're talking about a difference between 565 planned and only 180 to actually get built. And again, they're using this word actually to emphasize the fact that there's a contradiction between what is believed and what is factual or expected to actually get built over the next 10 years, decade. 2/3 of the pipeline is implausible. The pipeline represents the planned projects. So in a company, a pipeline represents all the potential sales and all the potential deals, and there are different stages of a pipeline. So the same is for construction projects. The pipeline, in the sense of AI data centers, would include all the applications submitted, all the applications approved, rejected, construction that is planned, in progress, finished. All of that represents the pipeline. 2/3 of the pipeline is implausible. Implausible. So not going to happen. Not realistic. According to one expert. So this is according to one expert. Maybe another expert thinks it is plausible, realistic. That still amounts to about $10 trillion. Remember, we already learned the denomination does not take the plural. It's the dollars. $10 trillion of investment. So that still amounts, even if only 1/3 is built, because 2/3 is implausible according to one expert. So if only 1/3 is built, that still amounts. So 1/3 still amounts to about approximately around $10 trillion of investment, 50% bigger than the next biggest spending boom from the 19th century railroad expansion. So this was around $5 trillion because it says 50% bigger. And that's the end of the article. So now I'll read the article from start to finish, and you can focus on my pronunciation. Americans are rallying against data centers. Surprisingly few are actually getting built. People really don't like AI data centers. Politicians are running against them. A recent Gallup poll showed 71% of Americans oppose them. Several states have proposed or passed laws to ban them. But this notion that AI data centers are quickly popping up everywhere is belied by the fact that their construction faces massive hurdles, regardless of whether anyone wants them in their backyard or not. Despite $750 billion in AI infrastructure investments this year alone, according to JP Morgan, data centers are struggling to get shovels in the ground. About 60% of data center capacity planned for completion in 2027 hasn't even begun construction, according to JP Morgan. Another 70% of projects that have gotten underway have since been delayed. The United States had 5,427 data centers at the end of last year, according to Stanford University's AI Index report. That number is set to nearly double. AI companies have announced plans for 3,969 new U.S. data centers, according to Atereo, a data center research company. Of those, just 802 are currently under construction. There's reason to believe many of those nearly 4,000 planned data centers were never real to begin with. Developers typically submit many simultaneous applications across multiple regions, only to pick the most viable one, noted Goldman Sachs. That's why, of the 565 gigawatts of computing power AI companies are currently planning, more than 10 times today's power, experts expect just 180 gigawatts to actually get built over the next decade. 2/3 of the pipeline is implausible, according to one expert. That still amounts to about $10 trillion of investment, 50% bigger than the next biggest spending boom from the 19th century railroad expansion.
Do you want to keep learning English with the news? If you do, put yes, 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 put yes, yes, yes in the comments below. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.